Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. We have another round of your, of the social season, just the lead up to the real thing and to the real next season of World Online Racing. We're here with your console social. My name's Joseph Black, and alongside me, we're seeing double this evening. It's also Joseph. Good evening.
Hello, Joseph. Oh, it feels very odd to say. But yes, good evening, everybody. Week 2 of social action. It's not come without a few little on-track tussles, we'll say that. Some more deliberate than others. But hopefully we put that behind us this evening and see what the Circuit of the Americas brings us. Bahrain, if that was anything to go by, was a real thriller to get us warmed up for the season. Let's hope this is more of the same.
Yeah, Bahrain, pretty good circuit to kick off any season and any game as well. Kota will bring a different challenge to the drivers, and I know some of them have been struggling in practice. And, we'll watch on board with the Ferrari of Shizu's Oscar as he heads through the first couple of corners. Of course, not Shizu anymore, as the combination of the Team Shizu and the Cedar Phoenix Igniters is a very threatening sight for any Legacy Division competitors this season. But of course, Oscar still rocking the name and, rocking a pretty decent lap time at the moment, going through the first sector and coming out the other end of it, just putting the power down for the DRS. Now down at the back straight, Oscar is just trying to get as high revs as he possibly can before he goes down to the next braking zone, taking as much curbing as he possibly can and heads into sector 3. Now sector 3, much more windy, twisty. Second sector is majority made up of that big straight. This final sector is where the real nitty-gritty of the circuit is, as they just desperately try and wrangle onto that car as quickly as they can, keeping up that minimum speed. And at the moment, Silo looks like he's the one to take that minimum speed up to the top of the timesheets, but Matteo is going to take the provisional pole position by 0.04 of a second ahead of Silo. Oscar around the final corner now. What is he going to be able to do in that Ferrari? DRS is open. It's only a 31.0 for the Ferrari, so not a great lap time to kick him off for this evening. We'll see what his teammate Volakongan can do as he heads through the final sector now. Of course, Volakongan coming into this game with a lot to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. Champion last season after the tyre drama. He went on to do some magnificent tyre whispering himself last week. If there's anybody that is capable of it, it is him. Up to the line he goes, 131.115, just 6 thousandths behind Kay Gatkovsky in the McLaren. Ryan slots into P5, some very close lap times being set, a couple, Matteo and Silo dipping into the 1 minute 30s as of now. Justin, however, he's in the 132s, a real slow start for the driver in the Haas this evening. Next across the line will be a Kick Sauber. It's Simba Rocks 1, I believe he invalidated on that lap. It was a 32.5 anyway, so a few drivers just struggling to find their feet in the opening laps here at Kota.
Yeah, it'll take them a little bit of time to get into this racing, and some of these circuits very different to how you would have expected them in F124, and all the practice they would have got as Brando invalidates heading into the final sector, just taking too much curbing on the inside line, and the V-Carb, or the Racing Bull as it is now, is going to have to go once again. But Brando representing PGR, Epic Vale also representing PGR, but he hasn't been able to set a valid lap time yet, and he's going to come around the final corner, try again, and we'll see what he's able to do. Hasn't come into the pits for a while, so those tyres will start to wear over the next few laps. But the Aston Martin at the moment trying to prove himself. FRT's Nico is in the second sector as well. Somebody else who would like to prove a lot tonight, drafted in as a reserve, and we'll see what he is going to be able to do. Lots to prove, as I keep saying, for all of these drivers, and a whole new game, a whole fresh start for them. Of course, Volakongan title victor last time out, and he's going to want to go back to back here in season 20. But we will see what he's going to be able to do across the season. but at the moment it looks as though he's going to be slotting into that mid-pack, at least at Kota in this early qualifying run. He's only 2/10 off of Matteo on that pole position, so pretty tightly packed between the top 7. You have quite a few drivers down the bottom unable to set laps so far, and for Zinedine Hajjaj, no lap at all.
Yeah, I think he's just gone for the last to first approach, potentially this evening. Of course, he was involved with that crash with Epic Vale last week that did actually go viral on Epic Vale's Twitter. It was more people laughing at him rather than with him. So, yeah, not quite the response Epic Vale wanted to that. Somebody asking in the live chat, is he banned? Well, no, not from WOR as of now. I think he has been officially excluded from the next season of PSGL, and the incentive for him now is don't you dare do it again, because you'll have no league at all, or top level league anyway, to race in throughout the first half of this game cycle. So, you know, just wisen up a bit, mature approach from now on, because it's been far from it. I think there's been 3 almost deliberate incidents involving him in the first week of the game so far. So it's not what you want to see at all. Maybe Zinedine Hajjaj trying to avoid that, but we'll soon see as we go on into the race, hoping that it doesn't happen again. Fresh start, more so for other drivers as well. I was going to pick up on SCI Stefano. He was in Team Shizou on F124, but he took a break from the end of the game cycle, and now he's been re-signed to the newly renamed team, and he is back. So I'm excited to see him out of anybody on this grid so far. I thought it was worth a mention. It's good to see him back. I don't know where his pace stands, but again, another thing we'll find out together.
Well, at the moment he's sitting 31.7, a tenth off Chris RBL, but 3/10 ahead of Justin, who has the slowest lap time of all, so just getting used to it once again. I think, to be fair, taking a break towards the end of the game cycle actually does allow you to reset. I don't know whether he was taking any more games on, but it just the issue with the end of the F124 game cycle is it got a bit ridiculous with the flicking and all these sorts of things, and I know, especially in my own experience with the flicking, it's hard to shake once you have it in you. It's difficult to shake those issues that it can cause, and for these drivers, they will have practiced like intentionally trying to get rid of the flick out of their race. Of course, they will be quick with or without the flick, but the flick would just give them that advantage. It's that extra tenth of a second, which in this session will be so crucial. It's those extra 400ths that now currently separates the top 2 drivers. It's that extra tenth that separates first and third. It's such little margins at this level, and at the moment it's just about trying to sight out this game and trying to work out what the best way to drive is in these early stages on it. It appears to be that a lot more smooth is the driving style that they should be going for, but of course there will always be drivers who try to exploit it, as well as the fact of the great EA developers, as always, getting smoke absolutely right. So when you go into a braking zone and somebody locks up ahead of you, you can see perfectly what's ahead of you, and so that will never cause any of these drivers any issues. We've got Owen heading through the final sector, and I believe he may well be trying to set a lap time. At the moment, doesn't have one. He is one of 8 drivers at the bottom who haven't set them at the moment. Of course, that does include Zinedine Hajjaj, who will be starting from the back of the field. But Owen will actually be going again, running wide out of the penultimate corner. And actually, he's going to come into the pits, so not happy with the preparation for the next lap. And he has decided to back out of it. You've got Zimbarox and Brando on laps, Lifebout as well, who haven't set them already. But the majority of the drivers out for at least their second, if not their third runs. And we'll see what they can do when it really gets down to it.
Yeah, Owen's session already compromised this evening. Just as we loaded into this qualifying session, his internet cut out. So, yeah, already a few minutes behind, and now still without a lap time on the board. Again, just perhaps fortunate that others are still in the same situation as him. Nico starting a lap time. Epic Vale just up the road ahead as the two Aston Martins running pretty close on track. New fastest lap of the session for Shizu Oscar, 1:30.798. Simbarox 1 in the Kick Sauber, invalidated on his first run. Here he goes again, really twitching the car through the final corner. It looked really messy. He missed the apex coming through turn 19, and ultimately he now has the slowest valid lap time of the session. But Shizu Oscar putting a nice margin between himself and Mateo, about a 10.5 gap. I'm expecting to see lap times into the 1:30.5s, I think, based on what we saw from PC last night, and then basically adding a couple of tenths onto it, which is often the difference on console.
Yeah, it does appear to be that console is slower in this early stage than PC, quite significantly in fact, as some of the tests have seen up to 7 tenths of difference between the two games. So it's a completely different game as with last year, and well, it's very interesting to see as they fix the FPS issues for PC. It caused more problems for console, and of course we are here a console and PC kept separate here, but it will be still very interesting to see the comparisons. Epic Vale putting in his first valid lap up into 7th place. Ryder Dahl in the meantime as well, he went up into the top 3 with a 30.9, a 9.58 to be specific, which puts him just under 200ths of a second behind Matteo, and just over 200ths of a second ahead of Silo. So these drivers here just sighting out these early laps, and they are improving on the circuit. Niall Gio, I know he's put a lot of practice in for this social race. He's coming through the second sector and heading through onto the third one. We'll see whether he's able to beat his 31.3. He's not. Round he goes, just takes too much curbing out of the penultimate corner, and he's going to have to go again.
Yeah, not seen a spin like that in a while. Just going to watch this one back. I think he just caught the rear left tyre on the inside curb, and ultimately the car not happy with it. Yeah, just sort of looped it around. Very strange spin there from Niall Gio, but it's not Monaco, so he doesn't feel anywhere near as confident as he does around there. Just give him Monaco for 12 races every season. He would be a several-time WOR champion by now. Biggest race-winning margin last season by a long way. I think it was about 50 seconds he put between himself and the car in second place. An unbelievable feat, but yeah, I doubt we'll see that repeated anytime soon. FRT Nico still without a lap. He validated on his previous attempt. He's now out of fuel and crawling back into the pit lane. Owen is on a flying lap, again slightly out of sync with the other drivers. The Mercedes rounding turn 11 now, gets a bit of a twitch on the exit, and of course Parc Ferme is on this evening, so drivers having to balance race setup and quali setup. Not something they had to do particularly often through F1 24, and it's certainly widening the lap time margin a little bit between the drivers.
It certainly is. It feels as though the pace disparity year on year is getting bigger and bigger between those up the top and those just driving casually. The more practice you get, the better you get, it seems to be. And this is just another example of it. Owen invalidating in that final sector, so he will not be improving on that time. Owen and Nico in particular have really been struggling, whereas the others who haven't set laps, Matisse and Quantum, haven't really come out for that many laps. Lifebout's come out for a couple, but he's never really been pushing all that hard. But Matisse and Quantum, they haven't really come out. They haven't sighted out the conditions. It's going to take them a while, I think, to get into it. But for Nico and for Owen, they seem to have struggled. I think I've seen now 3 runs, potentially 4 from Nico, where he's invalidated on his laps. He's got 2 minutes 30 left in the session. It's his final chance.
Doesn't bode well for the race either, because if anybody watched the PC social last night, there was an awful lot of penalties. And of course, the warning system's a little bit buggy on this game so far. You are getting straight 2-second penalties for the majority of track limit infringements. So again, just it transfers from qualifying to race, so they need to really get it sorted on this final lap of the session to avoid any issues. But here come the final laps. I think first and foremost it will be a Haas and it will be Quantum to kickstart the final laps of the session. It's interesting because he performed really well last week, finishing P4 in Bahrain, and now just not quite having that same confidence so far.
Yeah, it's taking a little while to get going, of course, when you have such an oversteery game as F1 24 and you try to transfer your skills over to 25. It can take a little bit of time, and for some drivers, it may well not come at all. You think of the likes of well, I'll take, for example, Julian Klaffenbach, who really, really exploded on that last game cycle. He was so, so good all of a sudden, very early on, because he nailed that meta. And now it's just about getting used to a brand new meta. And I know he's got the opportunities to get used to that meta just because he's earned his way into various different esports teams that can help him prepare. But for those who don't necessarily have that sort of level of input into their driving, it can take a little bit of a while to get used to it. And Quantum here suffering from the new understeery version of the game, I think, and just invalidating on his first couple of runs, just trying to get used to this game. And Nico and Owen trying to do the same thing. Matisse has not decided to come out for another lap. I think he came in just a bit too late to be comfortable with his preparations, so he'll be starting from the back with Hajjaj. Quantum now around the final couple of corners. What is he going to be able to do? There's a little bit of Aston Martin shenanigans around the final corner as they're both preparing themselves for their runs at the same time. Quantum's going to split the two, and he's going to split almost the entire field. He goes almost exactly halfway, 7th out of 15th.
Yeah, good lap there from Quantum. It was tidy, and that was the main thing for him on that lap, rather than pure outright speed, because I feel he's got a little bit more in the tank. Next up, Volokongan, podium last week, goes second and onto the front row, joining his teammate for this evening and Norwegian compatriot Shizu Oscar. Great lap there from him. Next across the line, we've got a bit of a wait, but it is, I believe, one of the Mercs. It is Owen who is without a lap time. It's not Owen. I've got that totally wrong. I think it's Ryterdal, and he's crashed coming through turn 19. I think that's just him throwing his lap time away now that he had invalidated. The next Ferrari to cross the line is Shizu Oscar. Can't extend his advantage at the top. It's a 1:30.798 to beat. Oh, it's beaten by 1,000th of a second for Matteo. That's fantastic. Great lap from the Italian, and he's nicked pole position provisionally by the skin of his teeth.
And I think he may well be holding on to that one now. Looking at the drivers crossing the line, Silo goes up to third place with a 30.8. And as we see, the remainder of the laps coming in, Rayan Bakar was up by a lot of time, but he invalidated on it. And I don't think anybody else has that pace to challenge. Epic Veil just invalidates, goes too deep into the penultimate corner, and so will not be improving on his lap time, even if he does come to cross the line now. Niall Gio is heading through the final couple of corners, as is the other Sauber just ahead of him. That's going to be Simbarox 1, who's going to try and get a good lap time on the board. He had a 32. He's now just sneaked into the 31s. Niall Gio 31.2, and he goes into 11th place. Owen will be the last car to cross the line. He's invalidated, so he will start from the back, and it's going to be Matteo on that pole position by the finest of margins.
And Owen's Wi-Fi has dropped out again right as he crossed the line. Hopefully that's not a recurring issue, but it looks like it might be. Matteo, though, in qualifying once again, pulling it out of the hat to produce a lap time just 1,000th quicker than Shizu Oscar. Has the World Online Racing Legacy Division feel about this one, with the ET8 and Shizu names at the top of the timesheets. Silo, of course, always looking to cause an upset, and he will start this race from third. What a great qualifying session in the end, and it's always good when it's separated by such a close margin.
Of course, it is Matteo on that pole position, a 1:30.797 Shizu's Oscar in second place, just 1,000th behind. Silo and Volokongan, both within a 10th of that pole position, so we could be in for an exciting race. Ryderdahl a 10th and a half behind. Then Rayan Bakar, Quantum, Epic Veil, Kay Gotovsky and Chris RBL round out the top 10. Niall Gio, Brando, Stefano, Nico, Simbarox and BRT Justin round out those who set times. And Lifebout, Hajjaj, Matisse and Owen all decided to start from the back. Owen potentially taken out of his hands. The rest of them made that conscious decision to start from the very back. Of course, you'll get it a decent amount in socials. And as we head into this race now, we could be getting a lot of action going on. This first sector, not very easy to go side by side in, but oh boy, when they do try it. it always turns out exciting.
Yeah, it was last night, certainly. A dramatic collision, if anybody saw it. I think it was Luca Rapassa and somebody else that went spewing off into the wall. That's what happens when you get it wrong. But the decision-making very much important in that first sector in wheel-to-wheel combat. Just an Owen update. I think he's fully withdrawn. He had some wheel upshift issues, so not internet connection related, thankfully, but yeah, not something you really want to be doing 28 laps of COTA with.
No, certainly not. And it was Luca Rapassa and Sergio Sobrino in that first sector who ended up having issues. Hopefully we don't have anything like that today. Hopefully we don't have anything involving Epic Vale as well, because I fear that would explode F1 League Racing Twitter. But we will have to see how the race progresses. As you say, 28 laps of COTA just ahead of us. Who do you reckon's going to come out on top then? It's a new game. We haven't seen them around COTA before on here, but I mean, it could basically be anybody.
It could. I mean, the race was won quite convincingly from pole last week, but I don't want to say the same thing is going to happen again. I think Matteo might have been my pick last week. He finished 5th in the end, so we'll go 2 weeks in a row backing Matteo, because I feel like I've got to back the pole sitter, seeing as it was so successful last week. I'll stick with that, but I don't think he'll like me once again if it goes wrong.
Well, I mean, now I've got to go for somebody different, and I think...
No.
No, to be fair, I don't know who I was going to go for. I reckon I'm going to back Ryderdale to take this one. He seemed to sneak up there, and it's generally the person with it's the person that you don't really know who goes out on top, but the 5 lights are on now, and they are off. We're racing here in COTA. Matteo gets a better launch than Oscar, and it's going to be 3 wide for that P2. Silo, Oscar and Volakongan all trying to squeeze into the same corner, and they've all come out on the exit side by side as well, but it's Silo on the outside line who's going to take that second place away from anybody else on that race stop, but it's Matteo who leads the way as they head through this sector 1 now. Yellow flags out as Matisse has had issues getting going, I believe, and Ryderdale is going to go down the inside of one of the drivers ahead. Matteo has had an issue. He's dropping down the order. What has happened to the Williams as he's now fighting for that P12? He's disconnected from the session, and that is exactly not what you want when you're starting from pole, when you've had a good start as well, to drop all the way down the field, and he will be desperate to get back in. He will have the pace to fight up forward, but that's the instant case of commentator's curse.
Oh, that's an awful commentator's curse. That might be my worst yet. He didn't even last a sector in this race before disconnecting. Ryan, what a start he's made. Now Ryderdale, last week's winner, down the inside. Contact with both the Ferrari and the Alpine there on the outside, as he now tries to go the long way round at turn 13, trying to find the traction on his medium compound of tyres. Ryan defends the inside once again, but Ryderdale makes it work and dives down the inside of Ryan to take P4 in this race. Now here comes Epic Vale, trying to use hard tyres to his advantage. Good luck overtaking a medium runner so soon in the race. They are a very quick tyre. They will get going, and Silo taking the lead on lap 1 with the medium rubber. Can he extend that advantage? Might need to jump in here, mightn't I?
I've just been talking for a very long time, and my mic has not been on the entire time. That's one of those things. Oh well. But yeah, Silo up the top of the field, 1.5 seconds ahead of Oscar. Always happens to me whenever I turn my mic off. I forget to turn it back on. And, well, at least you got the raw engine sounds of the F1 cars. They sound better than the previous games, as that is going to be a very strong defence from Ryan Bakar ahead of Quantum for P6 and P7. But it's going to be Rayan who holds on to that position as well. Matteo has made a position up in his chase of the cars ahead. He's 1.9 seconds back on Matisse, as he's just made his way past Owen, who still is having issues and I don't think is even in this session. We cross over to the third lap of this race. Silo leads.
Silo is flying on the medium tyres. Now expect the change of pace to come about lap 8, lap 9, based on what I saw on PC last night. And it was the hard to medium tyre strategy that won the race. But once the medium runners had pit onto the hards, they were catching those on the older hard tyres. So you can build close to a pit stop advantage if you're really on it. So this medium hard strategy can work, obviously without the influence of virtual safety cars and safety cars like we had last night. Matteo appears to be back in, and he's still in the DRS train that currently covers, I should say, P2 all the way down to P19. So yeah, rare to see a train so long in this game. That is obviously has the dirty air effect going with it, but yeah, will the overtakes be easy? Doesn't look like it so far.
Yeah, the dirty air does seem to be having an effect on this game, and as you say, the overtakes don't seem to be as easy as they were last game. Of course, it does affect you, and this final sector will be horrible for that dirty air. Don't forget as well, that smoke that's thrown up by anybody locking up will have a huge effect on the cars, as Matteo makes his way past Matisse, and he's up into P18 and is chasing down Simba Rocks now. He will be the next car up, but he's bridged that gap between himself and the cars ahead, as we've got our second penalty coming in of this evening for track limits. Matisse and Nico getting penalties this early on in the race isn't necessarily ideal.
No, absolutely not. And like I said, they're probably fuming that it is these instant penalties that's happening rather than an actual accumulation of warnings. But no stewarding to be done in terms of penalty removals. They've just kind of got to forget about it, drive their race as they would normally. I mean, Nico, that's a horrendous corner cut. I don't know if he's actually got away with that without a warning. Hopefully it's not going to become too habitual to keep extending the track limits, because that's where the risk of disqualification comes in, and nobody wants to be the embarrassing one that gets disqualified in a social race. Will ride it out now, look to make the move on Oscar. You feel like he might want to, because his medium tyre potential currently being wasted, sat in the turbulent air of the Ferrari, gaining nowhere near, not really interested in making that move, just holding on to a pretty steady third at this stage.
Yeah, those DRS zones not long enough for Ryderdale to really think about making a move up ahead of Oscar at the moment. And those two just sitting in a weird state of limbo, as Ryderdale knows he's quicker than Oscar and he knows he can get past. He just needs to sense an opportunity. Lifebout overtaken by Justin, desperate to get back past, but he can't quite find the gap just yet. And so he just has to wait in the wings for the time being. Zinedine Hajjaj making his way past Matteo, as I think Matteo was trying to make the overtake, in fact, and Hajjaj managed to make his way back past and up into 16th place and defending there for the time being. Justin has only just fallen out of the DRS scenario, which is a surprise, as everybody in this pack, barring Matisse, Owen and, well, Silo, of course, at the top, are within DRS. So this race is still pretty close heading into lap 5. And that is Zinedine Hajjaj off of the circuit. Matteo threatened to make the move, and Hajjaj took too much curb on the entry of the corner and just sent himself off of it.
Yeah, a few driver errors creeping in, and well, that was an unusual one. It looked like a total failure or something, potentially of something on his wheel for him to just react and go, you know what, I'm just going to miss this corner and forget it ever happened. So yeah, again, always the early part of the game cycle, iron out any equipment issues, buy what you need to buy in terms of new pedals, new bits for the wheel, DIY. We see all that sort of stuff in the first few weeks of the game cycle as the drivers try to get comfortable. We'll try and find out what happened with Hajjaj perhaps after the race if he chooses to react to it. Lifeboat and Brando both getting ahead of Justin. He was the splitter in this big DRS train. He struggled for pace in qualifying. He's struggling on battery and now more importantly struggling for race pace as well. He's going to enter a negative cycle I think and lose even more positions here as down the inside goes the pole sitter Matteo. So he continues his recovery. There's front wing damage on Justin. That will explain some of the slow pace. And now Matteo, they've tyre hooked and off goes Matteo. Good car control by the way. He keeps it going, I think without damage.
Yeah, hopefully so, and Justin is actually going to come into the pits, so he sustained that damage on this lap. And well, Matteo doesn't have damage. He continues on in 17th place, but that has hampered his progress slightly. And Justin's actually decided to retire from the session, feeling as though he was not going to be able to hold his way in it. And, well, just as he did, Matisse and Hajjaj have as well. So I think Hajjaj, you were right, has had an issue of some sort, and he's decided to call it quits before he causes any damage to anybody's race, like he threatened to when he went off in that first corner and he could have straight-lined somebody. Rayan Bakar trying to chase down Epic Fail. Quantum just sitting in behind, and Nico, don't forget about him, because even though he's got that 3-second penalty, he's still going to try to be racy, because of course he won't care about it now, because there's no points on offer. It's just a social race, and it means that regardless of penalties, you're just trying to get the highest position possible as you can, advertise yourself as well as you can for the new season, as well as getting all of your preparations sorted. And Nico will therefore still be trying to fight for these positions. He's in P8 at the moment, trying to chase down Quantum. I think the general gap where you cannot be affected by the dirty air is about 0.6 of a second, so that's why you'll see a lot of drivers trying to build up 0.6 of a second gaps. At the moment, Ryderdal 7 behind Oscar, and Volakongan swinging around 5 and 6/10 behind Ryderdal. So those gaps opening up, but I think they're intentional from the cars behind.
Yeah, I mean, we often see it naturally happen as well, that the gaps just sort of open up and the drivers try not to overdrive the car and push into gaps that aren't really possible to sustain, as in 4 or 5/10 gaps of a second. Nico's doing a good job at the moment. He's been backed quite heavily for this race by a lot of the console Tier 1 guys, so it's good to see that pace sort of pay off at the moment as he sits comfortably in this train. Fighting, of course, for a console Tier 1 seat for Season 21, as are most of this field. Of course, those towards the bottom of the order at the moment, such as Lifeboat, Simba, Nalgio, they'll be right on the cusp, I think, because it's quite a competitive field we've got, and a lot of drivers coming back as well and enjoying themselves on the new game. So this audition, you've got to make the most of these challenging circumstances that the F1 25 game has presented.
Yeah, it's always a new challenge when you get to a new game, and it's just about overcoming them. As, well, at the moment it looks as though we may well be seeing an overtake for that P5 Rayan Bakar getting through on Epic Fail. Nice and clean move. That is exactly how you need to overtake down into that corner. Avoid the dirty air. Just pull out to the inside. Make it clear you're going to go for the move. Epic Veil gave him space, as I'm sure he's going to be pretty tentative in overtakes and defences this evening. But yeah, it's an interesting point about Nico. Of course, I spent the majority of the season having a shout at him basically in Tier 4, and it was interesting to see his progression throughout the season, because he was quite obviously the quickest driver in Tier 4, but he never got noticed because of how inconsistent he was. He would very easily just bottle a race in one moment, and there was a quite entertaining moment in Netherlands last season where he just literally went straight on in Sector 2. I'm not quite sure how he managed it, why he did it, but he managed to go across the biggest gravel trap around the circuit and lose one of his tyres, which was not ideal for his championship charge, but he was certainly the quickest driver in Tier 4, and it's good to see how competitive he's being with these Tier 1 drivers at the moment, and potentially we could be seeing him only racing with this lot next year, not seeing himself down in Tier number 4. Having said that, though, he's just picked up another time penalty. He takes his total up to 6 seconds as Simbarox gets his first few on the board. The field has sort of split out a little bit more now, but 5th and 12th are still within DRS range, and so expect fights, especially with Epic Fail trying to chase down Rayan Bakar and trying to retake that P5.
Absolutely, here comes Epic Vale. There he goes, down the inside. Will Quantum try and follow him through? Epic Vale moving across there in the braking zone. Be careful not to repeat that too frequently. The real-life stewards might well have been showing the black and white flag there. Quantum unable to follow the Aston Martin driver through. Ryan having another little look down the inside at turn 15. Nothing doing of that. And yeah, obviously we... discussion staying firmly on Nico. I think it was World Austria last year. He had a bit of an oopsie moment in him in terms of driving standards as well. And yeah, again, just he's still quite a young driver, still making that transition, as you say, from his Tier 4 days in Season 19 to now being one of the candidates for Console Tier 1. Ryan making his move past Epic Vale, who has a little rear lock as well as a front lock there, doing well to slow the car down. But this battle has only slowed themselves down. 3 seconds almost the gap to P4 as we have a 4-way fight for the lead.
Yeah, 4-way fight for the lead as Silo's medium pace appears to have gone off, and the DRS may well be carrying Ryderdale through his medium stint of his own. Volokongan and Oscar both on a set of the hard tyres, continuing on in that lead pack at the moment. Owen down at the bottom of the field on those mediums, so that is what the AI would have picked for the drivers. But of course, we are not run by AI. We may well be very soon, but at the moment we're not run by AI. It's the engineers doing the job for them, and at the moment it's hard for the majority of the field as Epic Vale gets his way past Rayan, but did go off of the circuit in the meantime, and he has just now come out just ahead of Rayan Bakar, but with a 3-second time penalty to his name. It's interesting to see the amount of tyre wear that has been caused on this year's game. It's been the highest, I believe, that we've ever seen, and it's sort of forced 2 stops out of most of the circuits. Will be interesting to see what it does this evening. It's certainly sure that Silo's pace has dropped off over the last few laps, but whether a 2-stop is viable, I'm not 100% sure. We are a third of the way through this race, and he's going to try and take those mediums as long as he possibly can. But also at the same time, those tyres will fall off very fast. It feels like they hit a cliff and they drop suddenly, and potentially that could be happening for Silo.
Yeah, that front right does look knackered. To be fair, I don't think it'll be too long before he comes into the pit lane. In fact, the pit window for the medium runners open. Lap 10 to 12 was my guesstimate, so it'll be within potentially this lap next or the lap after that he does decide to come into the pit lane. And to be fair, he's doing a really good job in holding on to the lead so far. Again, not overdriving the car. That's the first thing you can do wrong in this situation. You push more than what your tyres can allow, and that's where the mistakes and indeed the tyre wear starts to spiral. Oscar too far back on the hard tyres to make a move, and this is only bringing Ryderdale, who is also on the medium tyres, into this race as well. He's caught up at the same pace as Oscar. He's not let him get away, and he's in a very good and in fact underrated position in this race, because he can follow Silo in, get DRS off of Silo, and then all of a sudden these two can start working together and potentially extend that undercut advantage than what they would achieve basically both running on their own. So yeah, staying out this occasion is Silo, staying out is Ryderdale. They'll go for another lap. Of course, they want the best quality hard tyres at the end of this race as well, when they're eventually caught up by the medium runners.
Something I've noticed about this game in particular is how important one or two laps is in terms of tyre wear, because you see leaders just reeled in because they've gone for the undercut and they've got, say, 14 lap-old hards instead of 12 lap-old hards. It does make a dramatic difference between the two, and that is why you want to go for the overcut as much as you possibly can. And it's just really these sort of dead laps which are the most important in the race out of all of them, just because it's make or break as to whether you can make these tyres work. So it's not just like on previous games where you could destroy them in the first few laps and destroy them in the last few laps as well. This is the point of the race where you have to manage them, and you have to manage them more than any other F1 game, I think, in history, as Silo is doing a good job of doing that at the moment. He doesn't have the dirty air of anybody else, which could be crucial, but at the moment Ryderdale proving that it may well not be the issue, as Ryan and Epic Vale keep fighting away for that P5. Quantum sitting in the background there. He surely thinks that potentially soon there could be an incident brewing between Epic Vale and Rayan.
I do hope not. This has been fairly civil so far, just kind of overtaking each other with DRS every few laps or so. Again, rounding the penultimate corner, the pit lane in sight, and that is the direction that Silo chooses to head in. Ryderdale, interestingly, staying out for an extra lap on this tyre. Angelo D'Ortenzio in the live chat saying it is the better strategy, the medium hard. It's what he attempted last night. The pole sitter, of course. Well done, Angelo, on that. So, yeah, he is backing this Silo choice as it stands.
Yeah, it will be very, very interesting to see which one is the better strategy. Of course, I said that the undercut isn't necessarily as strong on 25 as it was 24, but of course, on the contrary to that, it could be the case that in this scenario, on this game, and on this track in particular, it is the strategy to go for. At the moment, there's no real pressure coming from behind as Silo comes out in 16th place. He's 4.5 seconds behind Simbarox. He won't want to get caught up in that traffic ahead of Simbarox between 8th and 14th, and I think that's why Ryderdale is trying to extend this stint as long as he can, because it's much easier to make your way through the field if the field is split, but for those drivers in the mid-pack, they're not going to want to let Silo go very easily. They're not going to want to let, if Ryderdale gets into the pack, they don't want to let him go very easily. So I think there is pros and cons to both strategies. I think with how close this mid-pack is together, I think that the going for the mediums early on hasn't quite worked out. And at the moment, I think I'm backing the hard strategy for the leaders at least. Those in the mid-pack, a little bit different as Ryderdale does come into the pits on lap 13 of this race. He's come in a lap later than Silo, and so he will get that lap younger tyres as Chris RBL comes in as well. It is certainly the pit window open for those medium runners, and for those hard runners, they're just going to see how long they can make those tyres last. I reckon it's going to be about 4 laps more before we start seeing our first couple of them come into the pits, and it's about how well they've managed to manage them, as well as Matteo makes his way past Brando, and well, Silo makes his way to within 2 seconds of Simbarox.
Yeah, I agree with your point overall. I just think it will be close with both strategies at the end of this race, because based on what we saw last night, it's possible to totally close that gap as my sticky keys has come on, because I've left my notes on my shift key. That's unusual. Never done that before. But as you say, pit window for the hard runners open in 3 to 4 laps time, you would suspect, as Silo already closes in on his first traffic. That is Simbarox 1, and he's deploying a lot of battery. It's all about catching and overtaking these cars at the right time. I think turn 1 will be the aim here for Silo to clear the kick Sauber.
Yes, I think that is where he's going to try and go, where he doesn't really have any pressure to try and get through on a corner. Of course, the first corner is a little bit easier as Stefano leaves the session and may well drop down. So somebody who's performing pretty well, he's befallen bad luck, and he's going to drop down the order. You can see that there is absolutely no advantage to being an AI at the moment, and that's what befell Owen, and that is what is befalling Stefano as well at this point in time. It's also the issue that Matteo faced. He's now up into the top 10, but of course he hasn't come into the pit yet, whereas Silo, Ryderdale and Chris have. It's a better exit out of the final corner for Silo, who manages to make his way past Simbarox. Doesn't even need Big Red, turn number 1, to make his way through. I still think that name is incredible and also unbelievably American at the same time. But Silo making his way through around the final corner instead of the first corner, and that allows him just that straight to go in clean air and of course go through the first corner without any issues as well. So it's just a pure tyre advantage for Silo that saw him get past Simbarox, and he now chases down Stefano. After Stefano, he will be chasing down his teammate Brando.
Oh, this is perfect actually for Silo. I have invited Stefano back, but the advantage here with the sister Red Bull car, the V carb, is that it's about to get DRS off of a ghosted car. So again, an advantage down this straight. No slipstream, of course, but he's going to be closing that gap all the time, and indeed extending that gap on Oscar and Volokonga, his two main rivals in this race, and indeed Ryderdal, who's trying to close him down. Hit a lap later. He's now got Simbarox one to overtake and Stefano. Stefano now back in the session. So yeah, Silo having that very, very easy there indeed. But here comes the main challenge. Four cars up ahead, all in a battle. And, well, they won't let him go as easily of what Stefano's Ghost and Simbarox one have done.
I think the only saving grace for Silo is the fact that Brando is in that pack as well, and they're both PGR drivers. I think Brando,
Yes.
if he's going to help anybody, he's going to help Silo, and maybe that means pushing Niall Gio wide out of a corner, going for an audacious lunge. Maybe that means trying to entice Matteo and Niall to fight. Either way, it's just trying to help his teammate in any way possible as Silo's made his way into that DRS, and he will get it down the back straight. Through this first sector, you will see the pace advantage of him. They may well be team orders put into play between Brando and Silo. It remains to be seen. It's certainly not in this first sector, but that makes sense as he would have lost a lot of time if he lifted off to let Silo through. It'll be more down at the back straight where Silo will be able to seize that opportunity and try to get past his teammate. He will get DRS on Brando, and that looks to be all she wrote in terms of Brando's involvement in this one, as he's unable to get close enough to Matteo and Niall Gio in order to really put an impression on them. Silo now pulls to the inside line of Brando. It doesn't really matter what line he takes because he's going to get through anyway, regardless of whether he gets through on the inside and the outside. And he moves up into P10. Next up is going to be Niall, Matteo and Lifebout, and that is really where this race is going to be won or lost.
Yeah, of course, Brando didn't need tutoring there to tell him to get out of the way of Silo. Of course, these races are engineered just as vigorously as, say, team races, because, of course, the engineers want to learn about the game as much as the drivers and put their practices into the real thing come the start of the brand new season. Matteo dives into the pit lane, as does Lifebout. So that clears two cars, and Silo has got another helping of DRS. This could not be any more perfect so far from the Xbox driver turned PlayStation, but more importantly a pad king on a game that really hasn't rewarded the pad so far, at least in my experience. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed it. I've just not felt fast at all, even though I have been pushing quite hard to better myself. He's making it look totally easy. 4 more cars up ahead. You'd expect them to maybe respond on this lap and come into the pits themselves.
Yeah, Silo, this has worked perfectly for him, as everybody has, literally everybody has basically stepped out of his way and said, you go through, you attack further up, and he's now up into the next step on his battle, which is this 4-car battle. Of course, the 4-car battle before involving Niall, involving Brando, as it's now turned to the 4-car battle, or his attention at least has now turned to the 4-car battle between Quantum, Epic Vale, Nico and Kay Gutkovsky up ahead. And Silo now, you can see that grip advantage as he goes down the inside of Gutkovsky. He's going to get through so easily. He made that look so incredibly easy to get through, and he moves up into 6th place now as he just tries to scythe his way through the field. He's got Nico up next, and dare I say it, this is going to be a pretty easy move as well. It may look identical to the one that he got around the final corner just a couple of laps ago, as he's going to try and brake early, get that turn in, as that is going to be Oscar into the pit, and he's not the only one. Epic Vale joins him, so does Kay Gutkovsky, as now it's going to be Silo with that DRS down the main straight, getting his way past Nico. He's going to move up into that 3rd place. Maybe the medium hard is right. He has had his fair share of luck, but he's certainly earned it, and he's now up into 3rd place. Ryderdal is going to be 3.7 seconds back in 5th, and so this could be Silo heading on to the lead of the race. It was, and to the victory of this race, if he can hold on to this one, as it was close before they came into the pits. Now, not so much.
Yeah, and if he clears Quantum here, Silo, he'll be looking for a really consistent pace until the end. No mistakes. He's got no real pressure behind him at the moment. Ryderdal's still about 4 seconds behind. Penalty there for our pole sitter. Mateo's now on the medium tyres. Here we go then with Silo. It'll be an easy pull over to the left-hand side to overtake Quantum. And assuming Volokongan pits on this lap to respond to his teammates who had first choice, then Silo will be comfortably in the lead of this social US Grand Prix, and he'll be obviously checking those gaps behind every single lap. to ensure he's got enough in the tank to get to the end as our race winner.
Yeah, and he's working together with the new PGR engineer for this year, so it's just about getting to know each other, and this has certainly worked out for the both of them, so that relationship will have improved, and hopefully for them it'll improve as they go on throughout the season. But this is certainly a good start to their relationship, as now there's over a second between himself and Quantum as the Haas driver comes into the pits. Volokongan doesn't actually come in. He's going to stay out another lap, which means he's only going to do about 11 laps on those mediums if he comes in next lap, which means that his tyres will be incredibly fresh as he comes across the line. Rayan Bakker, fastest lap of the race on 3-lap-old mediums. Interesting to note as well, Lifebout in that middle order picked up a 10-second for speeding in the pit lane, so he is just fighting for glory as well. And, well, I think a number of the drivers picking up those track limit penalties, it feels as though on this game it's either harsher or the drivers are taking some time to adapt.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it is a bug rather than the drivers necessarily being worse. I've had it at tracks like Imola, Canada, tracks where it's fairly easy to track extend, that straight 3-second penalties are being given. I said 2 seconds earlier. I've been doing too many 5-lappers at the start of this game cycle, but it's all the same multiplayer Grand Prix mode in the game, essentially doing the same thing. And there's another 3 seconds there for Epic Vale. And I will take a look at his race director. Invalidated lap time on the previous lap, but then it's just gone penalty and warning, so it's often doing 2 warnings for the same thing, so hopefully that is rectified at some point, but at the moment I'm going to assume it's a bug rather than a complete skill issue for these drivers. But that's not to say we don't see penalties anyway, side by side between Epic Vale and Matteo. Epic Vale defending without hitting anybody. It's a miracle.
Well, that certainly seems to be the case for Epic Vale in this early part of this game, but he's doing pretty well to redeem himself. He's had a lot of side-by-side fighting throughout this race, and so far, a clean record. Not on his extension of track limits, but in terms of fighting with everybody else, I don't think we can have a single problem with Epic Vale in this race, so yeah, well done. He's doing better than me. But those gaps up the top of the field, as now everybody has come into the pits, Volokongan was the last one, the gaps have extended. Oscar is now 1.3 seconds behind Ryderdal, who in himself is 3.2 behind Silo. The hards appear to be the right strategy, unless Oscar, Rayan Bakker and Volokongan can get those mediums really working. I think Rayan's tyres are slightly too old to get them really effective towards the end of the stint, but the 2 Ferraris could be dangerous heading towards the end of the race. Volokongan, though, does have a big gap between himself and Rayan Bakker to bridge. If he's able to do that, then I think he's on for almost a guaranteed podium.
Yep, pretty much. Just got to keep it cool at this stage in the race. Volokongan, well, no such tyre management having to be done on this medium set, but you've got to say, another really impressive 18-lap run on those hard tyres, extending it longer than anybody else to put himself in a prime position to go on and push for this podium spot. He's in direct competition with his teammate Shizou Oscar. Of course, they've never had bad blood, have they? They've always worked together and they've always ensured some pretty good results for their team. While there's no points on offer for this one, you'd expect that Volokongan is going to be given a fair chance to try and push on for the race win, just as much as what Shizou Oscar is doing at this moment in time. He's now in DRS of Ryderdal. Could this be the lap he makes the move? Because he's got to get after Silo as soon as he can before those medium tyres start to die.
We will see whether he's able to do that as Stefano comes into the pits, retires from the session, and Matteo and Lifebout side by side. Quantum and Kagakovsky making it 2 by 2, and Matteo coming out on top. Quantum just squeezing out Kagakovsky into that P10, and just those battles in the mid-pack staying together whilst everybody else has filtered out. The mid-pack battle has actually gotten closer with the strategy differences. Shizou Oscar is right behind Ryderdal now, as it's going to take a bit of a while to actually get used to the fact that Shizou isn't a thing anymore. It's Shizou Phoenix Igniters, but Oscar on the outside of Ryderdal gets through pretty nice and simply, and he is up to that P2 spot, and now he sets his sights on Silo. 3-lap-old mediums versus 8-lap-old hards. How close is Oscar going to be able to get as we head through the final 8 laps of this race. One thing's for sure is that they're not going to have any pressure from anybody 6th and down, because Epic Fail is defending for that position with his life. And actually, he is doing an incredible job to hold on to it at the moment. No dirty driving at all. It's all in good spirits. And he's holding on to that P6 for the moment as FRT Nico makes his way past Kay Gutkovsky. But Gutkovsky on that inside line, able to hold on to it. Gutkovsky, after that pit stop, has seemingly struggled on this set of the mediums. As he's dropped down a few positions, he may well be struggling for grip. Nico as well struggling for grip around the exit of the penultimate corner. And maybe these mediums aren't quite as good as they seem, which may well be why Volokongan went so deep in that first stint, just to see how short he can make these mediums last. And, well, just to see if he can sort of ward off the poorer period at the end if they really do start to go off. He's almost in that DRS of Rayan Bakar, and he actually will be in that DRS as they head down to the long back straight. A couple of penalties coming in as well, as those up the top do seem to be avoiding them, and those further down do seem to be getting them. You said it's not a skill issue. I think potentially it may well be something about adapting to the game. I think I'm just slightly more mean than you in that sense. But yeah, it seems to be that, I mean, 4 of the top 5 haven't got penalties, 5 of the top 7. It's pretty self-explanatory as Volokongan gets past Rayan Bakar.
Yeah, I mean, 12 seconds is still 6 warnings if we're assuming that it is doubling up on those. So, yeah, I mean, still Nico not really doing a good job with the track limits. Lifebout on 16, 10 seconds, of course, added because of the pit stop. Speeding penalty, oh my word, Quantum almost slicing off the front wing of Chris RBL, and a switchback opportunity for his teammate Matteo, who has got 3 seconds himself, all the way around the outside. Potentially it turns 16, 17 and 18 down the inside into 19, and to be fair to Chris, he tried to hold that around the outside there, but there came a point on the exit of the corner that to avoid contact he had to back out and let his teammate on the quicker medium rubber through. It was almost Rule 1 of Formula 1, the unofficial Rule 1, I should say, broken there. Teammates almost colliding.
Yes, you don't want to collide. Even though it's just a social race and the teammates are casual, you still don't want to collide with your teammate. Just because, well, imagine if you did. You don't particularly want to collide with anybody, as some have found out. You could get plastered all over Twitter and get 400,000 impressions or whatever you call it on Twitter. But anyway, that's besides the point. And yeah, you don't want to crash into your teammate. Chris RBL here is on a set of the hard compound tyres. Everybody else in this pack is on a set of the mediums. I think at this point it may well just be difficult for the Williams, but I think he's just going to have to take the hit and hope that he doesn't lose too many positions in this part of the stint, as Quantum is going to get past Epic Veil with that DRS, and Matteo is going to look down that inside line as well. He does take that inside line, and he is side by side with Epic Veil as he tries to hold on to that outside line. Epic Veil allowing him just about a car's width, and Matteo just deciding to back out of it in the end. Does not want to have any issues, as in fact Epic Veil's teammate Nico looking to fight with Lifebout. He did pull alongside on the exit of the corner, but it wasn't close enough. He didn't get the traction down enough, and he stays in P11.
The solid recovery, it's got to be said, by Matteo, still in the fight for P6 at the moment, which from 19th in the early stages of this race, the disconnect on lap 1, the pole sitter has not done a bad job in the grand scheme of things, and he can still take a lot of positives from this race. Right now, though, the race leader Silo still just about hanging on to a gap of 1.1, 1.2, and Oscar won't get DRS on this lap down the back straight. So Silo still wrangling absolutely everything out of those hard tyres. And if you can hold on here for 2-3 more laps, then Oscar's tyres are going to hit that lap 8, lap 9 point I was suggesting earlier, where the tyres do start to fall off. Rydesdale could come coming through. Oh dear, that wasn't a great sentence at all. But yeah, and then all of a sudden we have a race on our hands directly between Silo and Rydesdale, when there was quite a big gap earlier on. So yeah, Rydesdale in that underrated position I was on about could still turn this into a race win.
Well, yeah, and we will see what happens, as they are all in that DRS. I said that if they were able to catch, then they'd be dangerous. I also said if Volokongan's able to catch, and he'll be dangerous. And he's only 5.7 seconds off now, so this one could be leading to a 4-car battle for the win, especially with Volokongan on those faster tyres. But he will have to really lock in and try to fight forward as we now head on to 24 of 28, 5 laps left to go in this race. And Silo leads the way, I believe. Niall Gio had a disconnect. He has just rejoined in well, the position that he would have been in anyway, down near the bottom, with, well, I mean, his teammate is only just behind, so he could be having a good fight for that P14. Silo leads the way, Oscar in P2, Ryder in P3, and Volokongan has gained 2 seconds, or 2/10 of a second even. 2 seconds would have been great, but 2/10 of a second in that first sector, and he is looking to try and challenge with these drivers. Oscar's tyres are only 2 laps older, but as I said, that could have a dramatic difference. We'll have to see towards the end of the race how big of a difference it is, but as they head down onto the DRS straight one more time, Silo may well come under pressure from the Ferrari.
Yeah, just getting within that 6/10 margin. The dirty air started to creep in. Didn't quite have a good exit there. Shizu Oscar, it's almost a now or never thing, really, because Ryderdale can start to charge up his battery and maybe take a double swoop of the RB and the Ferrari. 2 Italian-based teams, of course. Still, another lap goes by. PGR Silo remains in the lead of this race. Medium hard versus hard medium. A debate that will live on for perhaps the entirety of this game cycle. It's just that close. And it all depends, of course, on how much you can conserve your tyres. How much has PGR Silo got left in them to fend off the Norwegian? 4 laps to go then as we cross the line. Get your predictions in the live chat. Plenty of you in here. Over 63, in fact. Who wins this race out of this top 3? Or does Volokongan close in and maybe make it a 4-way fight?
Over 63 is a very specific number, as K. Gutkovsky gets a 3-second time penalty in P11. And everybody, apart from these top 4 and Chris RBL and Owen, have avoided penalties. So well done, Owen. Very good job. You've avoided getting a penalty, despite the fact that your PlayStation has been off since qualifying. But it's still, it's talent nonetheless, I would imagine, as Oscar and Ryderdal getting closer than ever to the back of Silo, and Volokongan has gained a second on that last lap, 4.3 seconds back. So I'd imagine our Tier 1 champion might be in this battle as we get on to the last lap of the race, but we are not quite there yet. We are currently scrapping it out on lap number 25. Lifebout 3-second time penalty heads his way as he decided he didn't want his teammate to be lonely, and just picked up another penalty in just behind his teammate. Niall has come in for a set of the softs. He wants to set the fastest lap of the race. We'll see whether he's going to be able to, and I think potentially he is going to be able to, because everybody's gone for a normal strategy. Nobody's gone for that for the 2-stop that people were talking about earlier on, and well, I'm not surprised they haven't. So that does mean that those lap times are not outright the fastest, but they are not too they are not too shabby for the tyre conditions. I believe it's Rayan Bakar that holds that fastest lap of the race for his early run on those mediums, as that's a huge little bit of dust kicked up by Oscar with Ryderdal in behind, and that will hamper the Mercedes' run out of the final corner, but I don't think he was going to get that move done anyway. 26 of 28, and Volokongan is now 3.8 behind.
Yeah, and crucially, Oscar not really any closer, at least on the previous lap, down the back straight for him to make a move. Let's watch the gap coming through this section here, going into it about 4/10. Does it open up? It looks like it is, almost 5/10, and then you've got a slower speed section here, up through turns 8, 9, and onto turn 10. It's now back over 6/10. So that is evidence that this dirty air is costing 2.5 tenths at this stage in the race, and he's in exactly the same position. Going into turn 11, 6/10 behind PGR Silo, but now he's starting to burn some of that battery that he's charged for the majority of this lap, and, well, not getting close at all, really, is he? So he's got to be so close, I'd say within 3-4 tenths, to think about making this move in the final 2 laps of this race. This is really intriguing. On paper, the hard medium's so much faster, but it's just about making the overtake. He can't do it.
Yeah, it is all about making that overtake, and he made overtakes earlier on to get up to the position where he is, but Silo made even more overtakes to get up to where he is. Don't forget, he had a huge slice of luck in this race, so his tyres will potentially be still in pretty decent shape, if not great, on a set of those hards, and you can see a bit of graining on those front tyres of Silo as Oscar tries to close in down the main straight once again. The real overtaking opportunity will be down in the final sector as something's happened to Rayan Bakar. There's no damage to him, but I think he's just had a spin in the final couple of corners, and the Alpine drops down to P10. So, I mean, we said there was quite a decent number of mistakes in qualifying. Haven't really seen any in the race until about right then.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan not yet falling out of the points, and I think well, Jack will overtake him because he's got 3 seconds worth of penalties less. Again, up through this first sector, 6/10 the gap at turn 11. It is still too much, and Silo has charged even more battery on this occasion. Last time around, he was running down the straight at about 40%. He's got 70% now, so he can use a lot more of that battery. And that only forces Oscar to use more of his as well. This is a really exciting end to the race, and not because of the wheel-to-wheel action. It's basically just a game of how close can Oscar get. And the answer, still, every single time we've been around COTA, not close enough.
It's a pretty tense one, isn't it? I think is the exciting part about it, and we're going to get a final lap scrap for that race victory. And well, you're still getting battles further down the order. Rayan Bakar really struggling on those mediums. 12 laps appears to be his cut-off point, and I said that they would fall off suddenly. They have, as Niall Keogh's gone round in that first sector, and that is not ideal. But now we cross across the line to get to the final lap of the race, and well, that is Owen, who is giving a little bit of help to Silo, not intentionally, but I think he may well have just won Silo this race.
Yeah, I completely agree. That DRS is going to be enough because Oscar would have been so much closer. Last lap around, he was 3/10 behind going into the S section. Now he's 5/10 behind. This is an all-or-nothing lap here for Shazoo Oscar, who just keeps scratching time away through this part of the lap, and it's not his fault. It's the dirty air mechanics doing its job and not making it a total bore fest in seeing DRS passes every single lap for the race lead. You've actually got to think about this strategy. You've actively got to try to get to the front of the pack, and PGR Silo, for him, it's paid off here, because unless Oscar can overturn this 7/10 deficit, I think PGR Silo has won this race with a hard, medium-hard strategy executed to perfection. It's been a great battle between the two strategies, but we're only going to have one winner here.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be Silo, as well, he's had a huge share of luck in this race, but he has certainly earned his keep up at the top, as well, he managed to scythe his way through the drivers. The undercut appeared to be the strategy to go for. Ryderdal, who went a lap later, it didn't quite work out for him, and for PGR Silo, he is going to kick off his campaigns around COTA with a victory. Around the final corner he comes, and up to the line. Silo's victorious here at COTA. Oscar in second, and Ryderdal will round out that podium. Volakongan couldn't quite get close enough in P4. Quantum in P5 is just going to get home ahead of our pole sitter Matteo, who's done an incredible job to come back to P6 in fairness. And this is where we see all the penalties being applied. Epic Vale comes across the line ahead of Nico. Chris RBL jumps the two of them after penalties. Brando in P10 rounding out the points, and K Gatkovsky actually gets rid of Brando off of those points as he crosses the line. Simbarox in P12. Lifebout will come home P13. Niall Gio will come home 14th. Rayan Bakar has had an absolutely horrendous last lap, as those mediums have really fallen off, and he's just sliding around the circuit. He went straight off in the middle of Sector 2, and it's going to be a difficult one for him to finish, as he's in P15 now, and I believe he's actually got a puncture, so it really did hit the breaking point for Rayan Bakar, and that is a devastating way to end those 28 laps.
Oh dear, off he goes again. I do very much like the puncture mechanics on this game. I think that's one thing they have improved a lot in the last few years, and it does look good to see him crawling around on a flat rear left tyre, and ultimately he's going to get stuck in the grass here, I think. Oh, that's a reset to track. I think we should get the stewards onto that one. Dangerous, and could harm Owen's race, really. Owen could still get a position if Ryan does get a move on. What a battle for P15 we're having at the moment between two cars completely ghosted. But no, on a serious note, a great race. And again, a similar sort of dynamic to last week where Ryderdale and Owen were fighting at the front. Owen, again, not being able to get close enough in last week's race. Same going again here. Oscar not really being able to overtake Silo. And the game is rewarding a better strategy choice. The game is rewarding, you know, not just sitting and in the DRS and doing it easily and overtaking. So, yeah, I do like this game very much in how it is simulating these things rather than it just being the same thing every time.
It's a good recovery, I think, is the way to describe it from F124, which is just the fact that you have been able to drag this game, which there was so much pressure on it. They've done well to make it a decent game, and that is exactly what they would have wanted to be seeing come this game cycle. And well, thank those who developed F123, because they work on 2-year game cycles. By the way, just for reference, Rayan Bakar's tyre wear at the end was 81 on his left front, so quite bad. 82 on his right front, worse. And then he picked up a double puncture on his rear tyres. So he was actually, originally it was his, I believe, rear right that went, and his rear left ended up following as he headed around the final couple of corners. So for Rayan Bakar, a learning experience for the drivers who watched Rayan Bakar and almost lapped him. It's a learning experience, and, well, we shall see. But Silo wins that race ahead of Oscar, Ryderdale, Volokongan, Quantum, Matteo, Chris RBL, Epic Vale, Nico and Gay Gatkovsky rounding out the points. And, well, a pretty decent race in the end of it. 20 drivers taking to that circuit, and one, Silo, came out on top.
Yeah, great work indeed by Silo. We'll be pleased with that one. And of course, F124, his breakout game. Is F125 going to be the game where he puts it all together and starts to win some of the major championships? I do hope so. A really fascinating talent that can go a very, very long way. So, yeah, a side of things to come, I do hope. 2 different winners for our first 2 console socials. The same going in PC as well. So all roads leading to a competitive WOR Season 21. We're not done yet with the socials, though. Next week is Abu Dhabi, I want to say.
And make sure to join us for that one. We have a very exciting game cycle ahead of us. We could have new protagonists today. It was one of the new protagonists from last game restating his claim. Silo took victory, and it was a very, very good race indeed. But that is all from us. Until next time, it is goodbye.